Welcome back to House of Footy, guys. We are going to continue our quarterfinal and semifinal previews for the World Cup. Next game we're going to talk about is the third quarterfinal match. Morocco 1, Portugal 0. Gio, no Ronaldo from the start. I think you and Mac were actually on the same page for that one, expecting Ronaldo to start. I thought he wasn't going to start, and I guess unlucky for you guys, he didn't. Cancelo also missed out. But Gio, what were your thoughts of the game?
Um, he should have started. I think it's very simple. He should have fucking started. Look, you saw the difference he kind of made when he came on, and the way he kind of almost separated the back line from that midfield, kind of the back line following him as opposed to the back line kind of creating that offside trap for people. Um, just the aerial threat, his sort of lack of movement kind of helped, for a lack of a better term, kind of forced the Morocco defense to kind of be wary of where he's standing and everything like that. Yeah, created a lot of challenges for the back line as you saw when Joao Cancelo came on, and when he came on, it was a different Portuguese attacking team. So yeah, no, we saw a lot of that, and had he had more time, I think there definitely could have been a goal. But when you're playing under that type of pressure, and you know, you, I'll admit Dallow's crossing is still poor. He loves to blast those crosses past everyone, and Bruno wasn't great himself. There's a very poor decision making, especially on that one dead ball where he tried to do a little sneak play, much to much like that Dutch free kick. I don't know. I guess he was inspired or something, but that wasn't the move, and it didn't go their way. Of course, people are complaining about the ref, but in general, they kind of fell into the trap, and Morocco hit on their one chance, and that was history. Like they sat on their block and they sat lower on their block as the game went on, and everything went Morocco's way. So, I mean, props to Morocco, because again and again they've executed the game plan, and they executed it quite well. And it frustrated the hell out of those teams, and as you can see, it frustrated Portugal to the point of almost tears. And yeah, no, props to them. That's all I can really say. I think he should have started, and it would have made that bit of difference.
Okay. Just reading out some possession stats. Morocco again with sort of that 30% mark possession. I think overall they had 26% passes. Portugal had 663, whereas Morocco had 247. So that's almost almost three times the amount of passes that Morocco had, and really it played out the way sort of we expected the game to play out. And Mac, I guess same thing for you. Give us some of your thoughts for this game.
I think this might be the worst coached game in the World Cup from Fernando Santos, because you know exactly what Morocco are going to do. They're not going to change their game plan at all by one iota. So you set up your team to play with two wingers, Joao Felix and Bruno.
Bruno.
Generally speaking, don't like to take players one on one in a creative sense, and don't generally like to make quick thinking decisions. They want to be able to take their time on the ball and try to pick a fine pass. And you play them on a wing as wingers against a team where you need directness, you need speed, you need creativity. In addition, you play a striker against the back line that just wants to sit, and that striker, all he wants to do is press, and try to find a through ball. If you're playing against a low block, there's no space for that through ball. It doesn't tactically. It makes no sense, and you play too wide. Well, Dallo playing over Cancelo makes zero sense, because again, this is the easiest game plan to have when you're coaching against a team in a low block. You want to be able to make sure that you have an aerial threat in the center, crossers into the box, and wingers that are going to make quick, effective decisions. And he's failed in all three aspects of it. Going forward, I understand he's the manager. He probably knows more about football than I ever will. But in my opinion, he failed in all three levels, and setting up a team against a game plan you know is going to happen. So it's failure there. In terms of a couple of things, to speak to Morocco's credit, though, I disagree with Gio. They had more chances in the game. They could have scored 3 or 4 goals on the counter if they just finished, kind of completed a simple pass. And the one of the few times they did get out on the break, they got the goal, of course. but there was one time just before halftime and 2 more times just before the end of the game that they could have easily sealed it. So noticing that and not making any changes to adjustment whatsoever up until you bring on Ronaldo and Cancelo and later on in the second half, it's a horribly managed game in my opinion, and it really disservices that team because quality wise, this is probably Portugal's best shot in the last 5 or 6 World Cups to be successful. They have quality on their team, and it's just, from my opinion, it was poor management from the start. However, I do want to say quickly the En-Nesyri header. I
All
originally
right.
looked at that as a goalkeeping error. I do think there was, but I don't know if you saw. He got up for his header to 9 foot 1 inch up in the air.
Oh,
That's obscene.
that's
You know
Ronaldo like.
that Ronaldo header that everyone talks about when he scores for Juve, right? He's only at 8 feet, so he's a full foot above Ronaldo's header at that moment. It's obscene how high he gets. As a man that can't jump that high myself, I can't really say much. But as a goalkeeper, you do want to do better. But full credit to him because that's a phenomenal leap.
That's yeah. I mean, when you say it like that, for sure, and Aziri, great job getting on the end of that. But I think, looking back at it, Costa must have shouted because I don't watch Ruben Diaz as closely as I like to, but every time I watch them, Man City, he's always the one that's going to attack a header and be the most aggressive one. And it didn't look like he was going to be. I think he was just kind of shielding it because I think he got the shout from Diaz and from Costa, and so I think that's sort of a lack of communication. The ball wasn't great, and it just happens like that. Gio, what was your take on that goal?
To be fair, I think Portugal's defense going into their goalkeeping was their weakest link, and you kind of almost expected one big mistake from Costa, and no matter how you look at it, or depending on how you look at it, rather, it could look like a goalkeeper mistake, and for those who see it like I do, I was expecting a mistake from Costa, and this could have been one of them. So yeah, it was their weakest link, and was I shocked that this mistake came now? No, because they had to be so offensive, and we pretty much agreed that they're gonna have to push every single ball, and Morocco would have their chances. So am I shocked? No. Am I disappointed? Of course, because I wanted them to win.
Fair. And on that note as well, I just wanted to mention, if I heard this correctly, Cristiano Ronaldo is now the most capped men's player of all time, or tied with, and great accomplishment. I feel like you said, Mac, this team is great Portugal team, and they had all the qualities really to really make that push for being actual world champions. I feel that, like you did mention, Gio, Ronaldo did make an impact. If actually Ronaldo was 4 years younger, if he had sort of that speed, where I think it was in the 90th minute mark, I think it was just reaching the 90th minute mark, he gets a ball through in between the defenders. He gets onto the end of it, but he's just able to get a shot, not that much power behind it, ends up going near post. If he was a little bit younger, a little bit quicker, I think he gets on to the end of that with that confidence, puts it far post, and they're back in it. The last chance of the game, like you said, Mac, Rafael Leao, being a more direct player, being able to put that ball into the box. Ronaldo, very close to it. Maybe a few years ago, he's able to be more athletic and getting onto the end of that. Ball is missed, and then Pepe puts it just wide, and just fine margins, but Gio, Portugal, is this a missed chance for them to win the title?
1,000,000%. Not to discredit Morocco in any sense of the word. This Portugal squad had pretty much everything minus the goalkeeper. They've had a well experienced backline. They have a very strong midfield. They have a solid attack. And then you have more of that on the bench. To not do more is there's no other word to describe it but disappointing, really. And against a side like Morocco, who is, again, obviously they've executed their game plan well, but it's still a very beatable team. You had your chances. It was more so a coaching error, a coaching mistake. but to not be able to use or to facilitate the right players at the right time, that's your job. That's your job, and you fail to do that. So for him, I can't see him, being Portugal manager any further. Like obviously they're in the talks, but that it does seem like it's trending that way.
Same thoughts for you, Mac. Same question. Sorry.
I think the comparison is, do you know the golden generation for England under Senior and Ericsson? I think this could be very much looked at as comparable, where they just didn't have the right manager to put the right players in the right position. So it's unfortunate there, and I think that's the comparison. Thinking about it more, which makes sense to me, because they, again, as Gio highlighted, they have even Costa. He's not a horrible goalie. He made a couple great saves towards the end of the game as well to be able to keep them in it, but he's decent enough, and you have enough in every position. It's just putting kind of the right people in the right position to be successful as a team, and with the correct game plan. Which it seems like they had the same game plan, and we're just hoping that it worked out the tournament. They didn't have a switch whatsoever if something were to change in front of them. So it's a little bit unfortunate there, for sure.
Okay. Okay, so let's move on now to the last quarterfinal game. England 1, France 2. Mac, England started with a 4-3-3. We sort of had discussions about whether they would go into a back three and sort of match France up in that case. Sort of just to deal with the wide backs, but obviously they didn't. Saka and Foden did keep their starting spots. How did you think the game went, Mac?
So I might be a little bit. I might be kind of patting myself on the back a little bit too much, but I think everything I predicted happened except the scoreline. Mbappe really was kind of him and I had the same number of shots on target through the entire game. So that was phenomenal. The best winger on the pitch was Bukayo Saka. Midfield was dominated by England. They outchanced it. They had more possession. Through and through, England were the better team. However, just in a couple moments, maybe you could argue referee made a couple mistakes, kind of gave the edge over to France. That's one argument, as well as France were clinical in their moments, and unfortunately, England just didn't have it in there. So I think that's the separation. Overall, you got to be very happy with the performance. If you feel like if you play that game 10 more times, England wins 6 or 7 of them, I would argue. So you got to be happy. I think this is probably Southgate's best coaching job that he's done as a manager in terms of playing against a team like this and really, in a lot of areas, dominating them and being the better team. So I think it's unfortunate in terms of the result, but I think there were a lot of positives to take out of it. I know Ray, you shared the message. I know it's tough to look at in terms of the ages of the players. None of them were other than probably Harry Kane in terms of vital spots. Maybe John Stones are going to be out of their prime in the next couple tournaments. So it'll be interesting how they progress from here. But individually in this game, I thought they were a better team, and it just didn't go their way.
Okay. Same sort of. I'm gonna just echo what Max said. Honestly, when we were watching it, I thought England had shots, but France really had the better chances. But looking back at it, watching the highlights and sort of just watching how the game played out, England were the better team, and France just here's my sentence for you, Mac. Gio, you're gonna love this. Does France give you that Real Madrid 2021 Champions League run where it seemed like everything was stacked up, all the chances going one way, play was going one way, but France were just able to come out on top? Gio, what did you think?
It's now that you mention it, does sort of give that feeling. Just because nobody was really expecting sort of this type of tournament after injury after injury being listed. And Nkunku being injured at training, Benzema being injured at training. You thought they were gonna struggle mightily, but obviously, they still have, well-versed players who were on that World Cup team. So, they don't lack experience by any means. And then to have players with almost confidence in themselves, and obviously, players on the team, the manager, and just instilling that confidence in the midfield that a lot of people would argue that is their weakest point going into the tournament. It just shows that if we stick to our game plan, if we play our game, and we take advantage of our chances, nothing is gonna. No one can really stop us because we're playing quite fearless. As are Croatia. When you make that comparison, both teams are just playing their game and just really sounding everybody out.
Fair. Obviously, France World Cup holders, being able to really come through in that game, and even we thought we were predicting it. Hugo Lloris, anytime now, he's gonna drop one into his own net. Great game overall, and was even
Great game.
did I think even play a part in that second penalty, which was missed by Harry Kane. I guess, Mac, do you want to talk to us about some of those penalty decisions and some of that, what happened with those penalties? Firstly, with the foul on Saka, which was converted by Kane.
Yeah, so the first one, I have to say, I think a lot of people are talking about going into this tournament. Taylor Hernandez is probably the best left back in the world. Saka ate him for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Baby food in his spot. He was so much in Taylor Hernandez's head, he was in Tchouaméni's head, and that's why he had to bring him down. So it was completely unfair on that side. What can you do? I think Upamecano probably had one of his worst games, and if I'm Deschamps, he's out of the starting lineup for the next game. He can't have that because he was rolled by Kane. He kind of was out of position consistently. Really, probably that whole left side had a whole lot of issues. I feel like too many was brought down. Obvious penalty. There was a chance a couple minutes earlier with Kane as well. Just out, I think was it just after maybe where Kane was just outside the 18. That I think was a correct call. But after Kane scored that first one, I think that was a clear cut penalty decision. Begged that away, went to his favorite side, kind of was very confident. And then the second penalty later in the game, Theo Hernandez, again, he was probably just thinking that, Saka might be on the pitch. At the point, he was actually taken off due to an injury. So he's like, you know what? I just need to foul everybody. I'm so shook. I'm so trash. I need to take down everybody. So he did that to Mason Mount, which obviously, really, why would you do that? It makes no sense. It was complete. He lost his head because Mount was not even getting that ball. And even if it was, you probably missed the net. So why are you worried? But then Kane going ahead, of course you want Kane. I think everyone, any English fan, any England player would be like, yeah, Kane's going to take it 100%. The difference would be Hugo Lloris went to the same side as Kane, and he was probably thinking at that moment, I need to hit this perfectly. If I'm going to do my second one, I'm going to go to my favorite spot. And looking up at it, he's like, and just leans back a little bit to be able to take it over the net. Unfortunate there. But I think overall, you have to be happy with the decision for him to take it again. If I'm him, I go straight down the middle that time. You know he's going to dive. I'm going to go straight down the middle. That's my call. That's what I would have done. But looking back, you always got to he's your captain, your talisman, your best player, and has a really good spot track record from the spot. So you got to let him take it.
Okay, Gio Tchouaméni getting the opening the scoring, and second goal by none other than Olivier Giroud. Mac is right. Mbappe didn't do too much, though I would say he did play a part in the first goal, sort of pulling the defense back, allowing that space for Tchouaméni to get a shot off because the closing down was a little bit late. And then Giroud scores, but honestly, Griezmann, the tournament he's having, and Gio, like you said, the quality of players that they have, just stepping up at the right times. This French team, Gio?
Yeah, no, like I said, obviously great, great movement by Giroud. Obviously just missing a chance right before, and then keeping his head high and just going at it again. But like I said in chat, prior to all of this happening, I think it was like mid first half, where I was saying, Antoine Griezmann was the unspoken man of the match, and at that point, he definitely was. He was everywhere on the pitch, whether it was dropping back, taking the ball, trying to create that pass, or he was up front pressing. And then on top of that, he was disrupting the flow of play, taking great fouls on closer to the sidelines, anywhere. It just really came down to his decision making, and it was all great. And then you saw like later into the game when he was carded, he had to back off a little. But that still doesn't that still didn't stop him from being everywhere on the pitch, just trying to be a nuisance without picking up a second card. I expected him to come off, but no, they kept him in. They had full trust in him, and yeah, just his work rate is just phenomenal. And him, and again, I'll say again, him and Rabiot probably don't get enough credit for what they've done up until this point in the tournament. And I've said some things about Rabiot and his mother, but I give credit where credit is due, and no, they've been pro- probably two of the most outstanding players on France. Apart from obviously Mbappe scoring 5 or Giroud scoring very timely goals, they're definitely up there in terms of importance of this team.
Okay, just quickly reading out some stuff, some stats that Mac left. Seventh time England have been eliminated from the quarterfinals of the World Cup, most by any country. This is Deschamps' 13th World Cup win in just 17 games in charge, taking him into third of all time. And so this leads us really to preview the semifinal game between Morocco France. And you guys saw, I'm sure, those lovely exchanges between Hakimi and Mbappe when they were each of their teams respectively won. But now it's Hakimi versus Mbappe on that left-hand side for France, right-hand side for Hakimi. So, Gio, what do you expect for this game?
I don't expect much in terms of huge plays by Mbappe, for example. I just expect that he's gonna have a very similar game he did have with England. He's gonna struggle because again, there's no space for him to run into, and I think Morocco doesn't change anything for that fact. The less space these types of wingers have, especially him and Dembele on on the other side of the pitch. It's just going to be a lot of low block sitting, and he's going to struggle again. So it's going to come down to how he changes his game and how he can contribute more to midfield, tighter, closer passing, and his movement off ball is going to be very important as well.
Okay, same question for you, Mac.
I think I agree with Gio in terms of what we said. I don't think the game will be won in terms of the crossing into the balls into the box, how Morocco handle it, and can they get that extra man run from the France midfield? Because we can assume that either Griezmann, Mbappe, Dembele, or maybe Theo Hernandez, if he's coming up on the left-hand side, are going to supply the majority of the balls into the box. The question would be is if Giroud can get that extra body in there to be able to help him in those challenges, because Morocco are going to know going in, he's really the threat. We need to be able to keep him down, make sure he can't jump, and have a man on him. So I'm really looking at Rabiot as probably the player to make a late run box because he's going to know I have license to be able to join up in the attack. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does get on the score sheet given that fact. So if you're a betting man, which I am not for sure, I may want to take a little sprinkling on that and see how that goes because I think he could be an interesting option as a late runner if one of those balls do come in. I think France are much more set up and have an understanding of how to attack a game plan like this. But the difference would be this is the first game of the tournament, really, where they know they're going to have to come out and put a lot on the offense. Every other team that they played are going to press them in some manner. If it's going to be at their halfway line, doing kind of a counter pressing, trying to start throwing the ball in the final third, as many other teams did, and they really relied on kind of clutch situations, hitting them on the counter. This will be the first time that is not going to happen at all. So they need to know that they have to be the aggressor. So I'll be interested to see if that mentality change can lead them to be successful. I think it will. But it'll be interesting to see how they go into the game, what type of presence they have. And the longer the game goes in and they don't score, kind of the more stressed they may be, which creates that more opportunity for Morocco. So if Morocco, their game plan should be, we want to make it to halftime, 0-0. If we can make it to the 75th minute, 0-0, great. At that moment, maybe make a sub, see what you can do from there, and hopefully hit them out on the break. That's probably their only chance going through. At least that's or it still hasn't happened yet. A Hugo Lloris mistake. See if Gio, I've never heard you defend Hugo Lloris like this.
Listen. He's wearing a France shirt.
Okay.
Everything's thrown out the window at this point. Look, prior to the tournament, I did say that I would like to see France win, and just to break the curse. I'm tired of this curse talk.
The curse
but
is already done.
for
The
them-
curse was getting out of the knockout rounds. They've done that so far. So if they lose,
No. Now they have to
they've already
repeat.
beat
They're
the
so
curse.
close to repeating. But yeah, no, it's just again when we talk about the game he had against England and like that one save at the start of the second half when Jude ripped it on a half
Ooh.
volley.
That was a great
That
save.
was no. I thought that was a goal. I thought that was gonna be bar down and Mac was gonna lose it on the chat.
100%.
And then Ray was gonna get a Jude Bellingham jersey printed on a Liverpool kit then and there.
100%.
But guess who was there? Hugo Lloris. But those are GOAT things.
For sure. Another, I guess, kind of matchup that maybe we want to watch. Mac, you mentioned Theo Hernandez, his lack of sort of defensive mindset, and the boy who needs to be freed, Gio, free the boy Hakim Ziyech. That might be something interesting to watch. How sort of Morocco hits France on that right hand side in their sort of counters whenever they have the chance. That'll be interesting to watch. But I guess just to wrap up this part, Gio, predictions for this game. Now, France are a negative 450 and Morocco are positive 310, which obviously means France are the expected winners. But what did you think will happen in this game?
I can't look. It's great to see what Morocco have done for Africa, but I don't think it can happen 3 times in a row. I think teams should be a lot smarter. I guess I say should because you can't guarantee anything, but there are periods of time where Deschamps can be a very conservative manager as well. So if the game again, like Max said, does drag on, Morocco are gonna have to go and chase the game as well, and when that may or may not happen, it does open up the pitch, and when the pitch is open, I much prefer France. So I do predict a 2-0 France win.
Mac, you noted here, Morocco have only conceded 1 goal this tournament against Canada. What are your predictions for this?
Own goal, by the way. Just
goal's goal. Okay. Sorry. My prediction for this game, I'm in line with Gio. Very much so. I do think France should win this game. I would love to see Morocco win. I think right now they are the kind of the host nation. They're probably the most supported team in the tournament thus far, I would argue, even more than the actual home nation in Qatar. So it would be great for them for a first African team to reach a World Cup final and maybe even win it. I think that would be a great statement. I don't see it. I think this matchup is a little bit too much for them. Not really in regards to the game plan. It's more in terms of the personnel. They're dropping bodies. Roman Saiz was injured. Ziyech, I think, came off. Masraoui, he had to come off due to injury. They're just dropping too many bodies from their original 11. Where I understand in a moment the adrenaline can do well if you're coming on as a sub, but to go into a game with the full game plan of understanding what you need to do well to be able to perform, I'm skeptical in terms of the reserve players coming in to have that exact same quality that the original starting 11 does. So I'm more worried about that in this game, given that they, again, against Portugal, they suffered another couple of injuries. So it'll be very interesting. I do think will be fun. We got a little bit of shout from Boufal. He used to play for Southampton, and I think he's been absolutely amazing on the left-hand side. Defensively, for the first time in his career, he's done a great job, but offensively as well. I think he has more successful take-ons than anybody in the tournament, if I've read that correctly. So he's been playing phenomenally well. And just as Ziyech could be good on one side, I think he could be just as dangerous against Jules Koundé, who's not really a wide back on the other. So that's really Morocco's only shot. But I do agree with Gio. I'm going to go 2-0 France.
Ooh, okay.
Mac agreed with me again.
Hey, that's great. I actually think this might go into extra time, but I mean, I think France do have enough to pull it out. And like you said, Mac, it's just a matter of time before the manager puts on a kit for Morocco to play on that side, because the amount of injuries that they have is just concerning. But obviously, we will be watching all of these games and giving you our review later this week. So always come back to us on that. On that note, guys, this concludes our podcast for today. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe to us on our social medias. That's at house_of_footy. If you have any comments, suggestions, or general banter, feel free to get in touch with us as well. Our email is houseoffooty@hotmail.com. The next time you hear from us will be Friday when we review the semifinal games for the FIFA 2022 World Cup. And thank you, Mac, for joining us.
Take care, peoples.
Thank you, Gio.
Bye, Argentina.
And thank you guys for listening. Peace out.